Hey guys, Indie Explorer here. I've established in my other videos that the Blight is a fungal organism based on the Ophiocordyceps fungus, also known as the zombie fungus, but in truth, that's only a partial explanation. Today, we get to the very bottom of the mystery that is the Blight. Our first clue that there is more to the Blight than meets the eye is given by Fredia herself when, after phase 1 of the Crimson Lord fight, she remarks that the flowers you passed on your journey are growing directly from her body. Since these flowers are growing all over Land's End, which is now covered in blight that seeped from the Verboten, the only logical conclusion is that her body is not just the part we see as the Crimson Lord, but the entire Verboten domain and abyss. This makes a lot of sense. The Verboten doesn't hide the fact that it is flesh, composed as it is of bones, eyes, tripe lining, and other organs you would see in an animal or human. The elevator shaft down to the lowest part of the Verboten seems to be constructed inside a spine of some sort. The abyssal cavern where you fight the Crimson Lord is called the Blighted Heart, and if you look at the abyssal gauntlet zoomed out, it bears clear resemblance to a lower intestine. Traversing the Verboten and abyss feels like moving through the body of a massive creature as you are slowly digested. The Deathless Pact ritual chamber being located at the very end of this digestive tract of sorts suggests it was the culmination of the Ancients' Blight study and took a deep understanding of the Blight organism to perfect, but that's admittedly quite speculative. Regardless, all of this begs the question: if the Blight is a singular entity, is it intelligent and capable of thought? And I think the answer to this is yes. Scattered among the Verboten, we can find brains that look suspiciously human, and it stands to reason that the Blight wouldn't grow such structures unless it had a use for them. At the very least, it would seem the Blight operates as a hive mind that takes control of its many victims, driving them by its wrath to attack the uninfected so as to spread itself as far as possible. But this admittedly wouldn't take much conscious thought, and could simply be instinct. A more indicative example of thought is that the Twin Spire's pod, the only sporocarp having reached maturity, seems to be very specifically guarded by the blighted creatures around it. A large pack of rats guards the elevator lever, a flock of birds patrol the elevator's path, and finally a group of sentinels and fellworms protect the pod itself. It makes sense that the Blight would issue a command to its horde to protect its most valuable asset for growth. Furthermore, it grew pustulent barriers across the kingdom that seemed deliberately placed to block access to the Verboten domain, another mode of protection against those who might try to cause it harm. Taking all of this into account, as well as the fact that it has power to bind and corrupt a person's very soul, not just their body, we must conclude that the Blight is far from being just a simple fungus. It is, in fact, an organism remarkably similar to the Lovecraftian monster Shoggoth, which is described in the novel At the Mountains of Madness as a terrible, indescribable thing vaster than any subway train, a shapeless congeries of protoplasmic bubbles, faintly self-luminous, and with myriads of temporary eyes forming and unforming as pustules of greenish light all over the tunnel-filling front that bore down upon us. Sound familiar? If you're still not convinced, it gets even better. In his anthology Hyperborea, author Clark Ashton Smith, a close friend of Lovecraft who borrowed ideas from his work, wrote about a creature known as Ubosathia who strongly resembles the Shoggoth. It is described as a massive, amoebic entity that dwells in a grotto deep beneath the cold earth. Once responsible for seeding the earth with life, it is destined to eventually reabsorb all life on the planet, and was also said to have guarded a number of stone tablets believed to contain forbidden knowledge of the Elder Gods. While none of this has been confirmed by the developers as far as I know, I personally think it would be really cool for the Ender Lilies mythos to harbor a sci-fi twist. Perhaps eons ago this creature arrived on Earth from the cosmos, and in order to survive, humanity used their magic to create special vessels, the White Priestesses, who could absorb and harness its power. Or, alternatively, the distant ancestors of the priestesses may have come from the stars themselves, tracking this elder god with technology long since lost to stop it from annihilating all life on its next host planet. But more on that in an upcoming video. In the meantime, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this theory in the comments section, and if you'd like to learn more about the Blight and its impact on Land's End, I would encourage you to check out my full lore video which goes into this topic in more detail. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.